Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. LegnaK here,
G'day mates, it's the Kaividian.
and we are here for week 2 of the Pokemon Sun and Moon Theory Discussion Talks.
Yeah,
Uh,
here we will discuss our thoughts and ideas for what may be upcoming in the Pokemon Sun and Moon games.
Alright, and today we are touching base on the two legendaries that we do know that are either unreleased or unshown. Alright, so today we are talking about Volcanion and Magearna. Guys, you want to start off with this?
Um, sure. Um, Long time ago when Pokemon X and Y was new, some people looking through the game's file found three Pokemon that had not been revealed, those being Diancie, Hooper, and Volcanion. So far, although Volcanion has been shown in uh, propaganda for upcoming movies, there is still not a lot we have seen for him for an upcoming event. Um, because it's beginning to be rather late and they have the 20th anniversary Pokemon distributing over the year, does this mean when we get it, Sun and Moon may already be out? I reckon it could come out in December because apparently there's supposed to be one more mystery gift for December that isn't part of the current 20th anniversary list of mystery gift Pokemon. And I reckon it may have some kind of tie with the upcoming games.
And it makes even more sense given that all these events did end up stopping on, November, and as you did say, there's supposedly a hidden one in December. And it makes even more sense that they'd hold Volcanion off until Sun and Moon on a region that is obviously tropical and where we're saying is quite possibly Hawaii. It's just way more fitting there than, France.
Yeah, especially considering what we've already seen. I doubt we'll be seeing Kalos as the main focus of this next game.
Yeah, it's very, very unlikely unless they decide to have like a southern Kalos that's completely and overly tropical. But, but, what are we going to go about with Volcanion? Like, what are we discussing about this for right now?
Well, I wanted to look at what we currently know about Volcanion and what we can speculate from what we've seen of it in some of the media that's come about. I'll be mainly focusing on the trailers that have come out, including Volcanion and Magearna. Um, for the moment, I want to focus on this picture here because although an electricity-like effect is a common visual effect we'll see in the Pokemon anime, we also could hear a little bit of sparks. Building off of the whole Volcanion's a man-made Pokemon as well as Magearna, well, I don't think that theory's too far-fetched because there should be some legitimate reason of why Volcanion's after Magearna, and I will get to that one a little bit later. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
Not really much because I really haven't looked too much into Volcanion personally. I've been looking more into Magearna. But I do gotta agree, like its body does look artificially built to some extent.
Yeah, and going off of what other people have pointed out, when you add a Volcanion into your, I believe it was X and Y game, you unlock other dialogue which hints towards something unnatural about Volcanion.
You wouldn't happen to have any of that pulled up, would you?
No, I don't.
All right. Well, I'll probably put a little link to it in the description or something.
Um, this next image of Volcanion I have, once again from the trailer, is one that I really want to focus on a lot because there's something in this image that doesn't sit right with me, and so far I haven't seen anyone talking about it.
And which part would that be?
Getting a bit of a closer look, we see Volcanion with these white glowing eyes, which I'll come back to in a moment. But beneath his head, he was looking down at another Pokemon. I don't recognize that Pokemon.
And see, and that's another part that we're going to come up to with this episode is this might be our Gen 7 Pokemon, because it, it doesn't quite resemble an Audino, and it definitely doesn't quite resemble a Dratini, which it looks kind of like a hybrid between the two.
Or a shellless Wartortle. Ugh.
Or a Shallos.
Yep, I had thought Sliggoo, but doesn't quite fit the part either.
It's missing the whole, it's missing the antenna and stuff like that.
Yeah. But my theory is, and it's a little bit of a far-fetched one, but Volcanion and Magearna, or Magearna, still getting used to pronouncing that.
Yeah, it's all fine.
When it comes down to it, I reckon they are both the same Pokemon. Well, same species. And just showing these glowing eyes, that somewhat similar. Magearna, being a man-made Pokemon, was made hundreds of years ago, or was it thousands?
500 years ago.
500 years ago. That seems like a really long time for a Pokemon of its design. Now, there are Pokemon such as Golurk and stuff, who, according to their Pokedex, were made by people, but they look and in design nothing like what we see in Magearna. Magearna is a lot more mechanical, as if it's being controlled by another entity. What that is, you may ask?
Daleks.
I look towards the Soul Heart, what Volcanion is looking for. I reckon the power contained in the Soul Heart is not quite a power, but inside the Soul Heart, I believe this Pokemon in this image is inside the Soul Heart, and that same species of Pokemon is inside Volcanion. And I reckon that's what makes these two tick.
And see,
Now,
and even in the picture above, it shows that Magearna even looks like a Pokeball when fully developed.
Yeah, gonna point this out. But Pokeballs hold Pokemon. It's, to me, not too far-fetched if there is actually a Pokemon inside, under all the metal. Anyway, that's my theory and look at it. It's a little bit far-fetched. But you had a really interesting theory about the origin of Magearna and how it may fit into Sun and Moon.
Yes, and that's actually what I was waiting to come up on, is that, every single Pokemon, like Legendary, has some ties in one way or another to the original of the things. Ruby and Sapphire had, Pokemon were based off of the Behemoth and the Leviathan, going back to somewhat of a religious-like thing. Even Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Silver and Crystal and stuff like that had Pokemon that were, the soul of something or the heart of animals that are brought back, Lugia and Oho respectively. And even Diamond and Pearl, time and space and situations like that. But this one's going to be a little different is because Magearna, or however you'd like to pronounce it, or however you do pronounce it still, resembles something strongly, has a strong resemblance to a thing that I did some research on not that long ago, called the Antikythera mechanism. Now, this thing right here is nothing shy of a interesting thing. It was developed about 500 BC by the Greeks. Now, this thing was the first analog computer, meaning that it stored data for tracking the sun and the moon, which fits way too eerily perfectly for Pokemon Sun and Moon to be coming out, with Magearna being one of these very well-known legendaries.
Yeah, and I think if they're teasing something like Magearna this early on, I don't see it quite as a movie plot device. I feel like it should have a more developed purpose in the upcoming games because of how early it's been released.
Yeah, because there has yet to be a single Pokemon that is movie only that has had a full feature for itself that was only, I guess you could say, meh Pokemon.
Mr. Mime? Zoroa?
Well, okay, Zora was one, but where'd Mr. Mime come into that one?
He cameoed in some, I think Lucario and the Mystery of Mew, maybe?
I was
Yeah.
saying like the main legendary and stuff, but you do have a good point when it comes to Zora and Zorak, because those are not exactly, mythical or in any way, shape, or form, but they did have their own movie.
Yeah. But yeah, that's just a little into speculation we have. I really want to see what other people think about this picture here, whether they think it's an already existing Pokemon or they do think it's an upcoming one, and what its purpose is.
Yeah, and that's definitely something I'm excited to see because, when you look at this thing, it's it's not like anything else that we've seen. And if you like looking at a picture of Magearna next to it, it does look kind of similar with the longer ears and everything, which also fits Volcanion because it's got those sharp, rather feline-like ears.
Hmm. Well, that's all I've got.
Yeah, and I don't really think I've had much either. Like, yeah, I think this is pretty much the all the bases that we can touch about these two Pokemon because there's again not much known about these things, but there is just enough to have some good speculation going on with them.
Yeah, and with Korokoro coming out within the following week, I believe, we may have some new information on these coming up or something else that we'll be able to touch on next week.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm looking forward to this because hopefully this Core is going to be like this massive, announcement of maybe new starters, even more about Magiana, and hopefully even more about Volcanion because there are things that do need to be discussed, and you can't quite shoehorn them all into like the last minute, or else a lot of people aren't going to be happy about it.
Yeah.
All right, so do you have anything else to say?
Um, no, just if you think you have any idea what this is, leave a comment because I need help trying to figure out this thing.
Yeah,
Like
please.
I was taking pictures of Volcanion. I I thought, oh, there's a cool picture of Volcanion in the trailer. I want to take a picture of that. I took a picture, looked at it carefully, and thought, who are you? So that's why it's here.
All right. Well, guys, again, tell us what you think in the comments below. And we will see you guys next week where we will be touching up on the possible Korokoro leaks and what could possibly be our next rival team, our next evil team.
Until then,
Have a good one, and we'll see you next
bye.
time.